Welcome students to another video lecture with Mr. Kenneth. I think I got my sound issues figured out here. So our final lesson of chapter 6 is going to be learning another formula. Don't worry, like all formulas, we follow a pattern. When we use the formula, we substitute and then we solve for the missing variable. But this formula is going to be on simple interest, and we're going to just touch upon very slightly what compound interest is, which is actually a more complex mathematical formula. So we just have to understand what compound interest is, and we're going to know how to solve for simple interest formula. So let's go ahead and pause here, copy down what you see. Okay, welcome back. So our essential question on 6.6 is what is compound interest and how do we solve simple interest problems? So again, this is going to have a primary focus on simple interest. And we're going to brush upon compound interest at the very end of this lesson. So first things first, we got our simple interest formula. And what our simple interest formula is I equals P times R times T. The I stands for the simple interest. P stands for principal. And principal is just like the leader of the school, but principal, another definition of principal is it's the original amount of something. So it's the starting amount of what you place in. The R is going to stand for the interest rate, and it's usually going to be given as a percent. And just like our percent equation, to use the rate or the percent in this formula, we have to make sure that we're going to convert the percent to a decimal first. And then, if we ever use this formula backwards, solving for the rate, we're going to have to change the decimal into a percent. The T stands for time, and it's really important to understand that you have to have units of years for the time to work. So I have a really complex example for us to start with. It's going to be a little hard because I tried to show a hard model, and many of the other problems are going to be easier or pick and choose what hard parts they enter in. So to find the interest, you multiply the principal, rate, and time. And again, that simple interest formula is on the top of this page. It's I equals P times R times T. That's how you find simple interest. Okay, so I'm going to jump a page ahead here and copy down what you see. This is going to be our first problem. And if you did copy this before when I had the sound issues, I found I made a mistake in here. Things you do when you double check your problems. So please pay attention. I'm going to change some of these numbers and the answer will change as well. So go ahead and pause and copy down what you see. Okay, students, so welcome back here. We're talking about me borrowing some money to buy a computer. And I am going to stress here again, this is a very complex problem to start with. And many of the problems are simpler, or they pick and choose pieces of this complex problem to make their problems harder. Okay, so first thing is we're going to try to identify if they give us the interest, principal, rate, and time. So reading the problem, I borrowed 1,860. Okay, so since that's the amount of money I borrowed, that's the original amount. And you can remember that a synonym for original amount is principal. So far I have the principal. It's $1,800.60. Okay, we're going to keep on reading here. Let's see, do they give us a rate? Well, the rate is normally going to be a percent over here. And I don't see any percents here. So far, I believe I do not know what the rate is, but I'm not 100% sure here. And then they give us time. Yeah, they give us, actually before they give us time, they give us the interest here. We will pay $71.30 per month for 30 months. So we have interest is $71.30 per month. MOS is our abbreviation for month. And let's see. Technically that 30 months is also a time right there. So they gave us the amount of time. Okay. So based on the 4 possible variables that we could have had, the one that is clearly missing is the rate. So that's the one we're actually solving for. And if you notice, it actually says it in our box here. Find the simple interest rate for this loan. Okay, so like I said, I gave us a complex problem here. So I'm going to need to get myself some space, and we're going to do this one part at a time. So let's start with the interest part. The interest part is the I. And at first look, it looks like our interest is 7130. But it turns out we're going to do 7130 over the life of this loan, which is 30 months. So we have to find out how much interest and principal we'll be paying for over these 30 months. So at first, what we're going to have to do is take our 7130, and that's per month. And what we're using here, we're actually using some dimensional analysis. This is from Chapter 5. We're converting units or rates. So if you're having trouble with this, this is dimensional analysis from Chapter 5 that we're using a skill here to help with us. So we have 7130 per month. I actually don't want months in the answer anymore. I just want to know how much money my interest will be. Those months reduce 71 times 30. You can use your Google calculator right now. What is 7130 times 30? What does that get you? Yeah, that equals $2,139. Okay, so, well, that's the amount I'm paying back. So that's not my interest. This is the total amount being paid back. To find the interest, I have to pull out the principal amount, and the principal amount was $1,860. And go ahead and again use your calculator here, and this is going to end up with our interest right here. And the reason we're having to do the subtraction is the 1,860 is the original amount given me, and the interest is only how much is added on to the account later on. So if we subtract 2,139 by 1,860, we get our interest amount of $279. So the amount of interest we're paying is $279. That's what I is going to be in the problem. Okay, so that was the first challenge in our problem. The second challenge is time. The time was given to us in months. But to use the simple interest formula, time has to be given in units of years. So again, we're going to use our dimensional analysis to convert our months into years. And luckily, we have a conversion. 1 year equals 12 months. Since I don't want months anymore, we're going to put months down here. And we do have a conversion to years. This gets 12, that gets 1. And this is going to turn into 2.5 years. And now we got a number that we can actually use in the formula because it has a unit of years. So really, we did all the hard part. Now we're on to the easier part of solving the actual problem. And we can't use a formula unless we write the formula down first. So that formula is I equals principal times rate times time. We just found out the interest amount is $279. We know it equals the principal, which is $1,860, times the R, times the time of 2.5. And really, I should probably be using my parentheses when I'm substituting here. It will help. Okay. So looking at this, we have to get R all by itself now. And rather than do this first part in 2 steps, we're going to multiply these numbers together before we get R by itself. So 1,860 times 2.5, well, that's 4,650. And the R hasn't been used, so it comes straight down. And we haven't used the 279 yet. All we're doing is we're cleaning it up. So now, to get R all by itself, we have to divide both sides by 4,650. And again, we're going to stick that in our Google calculator. 279 divided by 4,650 is 0.06. And since we're using our simple interest formula, the rate has to be converted from a percent to a decimal first, and we're going backwards, so we're going to have to change our decimal back into a percent. And to change that decimal back into a percent, we move its decimal point twice to the right. So our interest rate is 6%. That is the answer. The rate is 6% interest. That's how much I have to pay more than my principal since I'm borrowing money from a bank. And this is really important to understand because this is how banks get money from you. All right, I'm going to have you copy that down. So pause here and copy that down. All right, welcome back. Leave some space. Again, if you don't leave space for this problem to be done in class, I'm going to make you rewrite the note. So leave some space to do that problem. And then I'm going to jump 2 slides ahead for the compound interest part. Again, leave some space. Copy down what you see here. But since this note is getting long, I'm going to teach the compound interest part in class. And compound interest is different than simple interest because what's going to happen is every year that goes by, that interest goes back into the math formula. And I'll show what that means in class. So compound interest, you're going to learn, starts to accrue much faster. And guess how banks do their interest? Not simple. Yeah, you're right. It's compounded because that makes the money faster. So thanks for another lesson, students. If you have any questions, please write your questions in the question column. Ask them in class. That's great. That's all for me. I'll see you soon.